All right, here we go. Good evening to all of our viewers on Facebook. This is Samai Giwala. I am the Assistant Director of Illinois Families for Public Schools. We're an organization that represents families from Cairo to Zion on important issues to ensure equity across the state of Illinois in education. In cooperation with the Partnership for Educational Equity and Research, a statewide organization, we are hosting a forum for the Waukegan District 60 school board, one of the larger and more important school boards in our state. And we feel like it's important to make sure that all of our candidates are heard. With us today is Representative Rita Mayfield, our moderator, Kim Holmes, who is a board member with Illinois Families for Public Schools, and candidates for school board, Adriana Gonzalez, Brandon Ewing, Dr. Harleen Shipley, Edgar Castellanos, Anita Hanna, and Don Johnson. Representative Mayfield has graciously offered to make some opening remarks. She is a lifelong resident of Waukegan, North Chicago area. She graduated from Waukegan West High School. She has a Bachelor of Science degree from Columbia College and received an MBA and a Master of Science in Management from Benedictine University. She started at, her public career service started at Waukegan West. She was a reader at the VA Medical Center. She's been involved in the community since. She's volunteered as a youth skill coach, served on several nonprofit boards, worked as a community organizer, and relevant here, she was the former vice president of the Waukegan Board of Education. She's currently the state representative of the 60th district and is the first African-American female state representative elected to office in Lake County. Thank you so much for joining us, Representative Mayfield. I'll give the floor to you.
And thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. This is such an important event. As you mentioned, I am the former vice president of the Waukegan Board of Education, and I know firsthand the important role that school boards play in shaping our schools and our community. And I would just like to personally congratulate all of the candidates for their willingness to step up and to serve. So for those who are watching and you're wondering, what to look for in a school board candidate, I just have a couple of things that I'd like to share. I think it's important to elect school board members who have a vision to ensure academic success for our youth and prepare them for college, career, and life after high school. Other things to consider are, relationships. Are they going to support our teachers and our staff? Are they going to ensure transparency and accountability? We need to be sure that our schools are safe and that they have a positive culture so that that enhances the learning experience for both the teachers, the students, and all who come to visit. And we want to make sure that they're advancing policies that promote trust in the district. And finally, it's critical to elect school board members that will listen and respond to community concerns and be accessible to the public at all times. I'm truly looking forward to hearing from our school board candidates here because I will be voting in the Waukegan election. So I've seen some of your literature out from the various candidates, but to hear the responses to the questions that are going to be asked from both the panel and the community at large, I think is very important. And again, I just want to congratulate you. The school board is without a doubt the most challenging and most rewarding of all of the elected official positions that are out there. So thank you again for your willingness to serve and to shape the future of our youth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think now's a good time to let the candidates introduce themselves. I'll go around as I can see it from my Zoom window. So Adriana, would you please start?
So hello, welcome to everybody who is on our Facebook Live. Thank you, Samai. Thank you to Illinois Families for Public Schools for hosting. Thank you, Representative Rita Mayfield, for your words. My name is Adriana Gonzalez. For people who don't know me or are just encountering me for the first time, I'm one of the candidates running for the Waukegan Public School Board in District 60. I grew up in Waukegan all my life, graduated from Waukegan class of 2014 as one of the salutatorians. And was a Schuler Scholar, and that scholarship program has a very strong reputation in the region. And they basically were my pathway to Pomona College, where I studied public policy analysis and Latin American history, and where I earned my bachelor's in 2018. Came back, wanted to do some good here because I thought rent and expenses in LA were too much. And I've been involved in my community ever since, just trying to, be more attuned to the needs of the community, trying to get more involved with community projects. Something that's very special to me has been immigrant advocacy. I volunteered at several clinics in the past couple of years here, and I'm a part of the Waukegan Public Schools Foundation. We recently helped create a scholarship of $5,000 for a Waukegan school graduate.
Great. All right, thank you. Mr. Ewing, would you go ahead?
Hello, and as well, thank you for the invitation. I think it's important, as State Rep Rita Mayfield said, for the community to have the opportunity to talk to those who will represent them and hear from them. So I appreciate you all for organizing this forum. So 4 years ago, I was encouraged to run for school board, and with the help of the community, I was fortunate enough to win election to a 4-year term. As a parent of a Waukegan Public School District 60 student, I have a vested interest in our school's success. And as someone who attended and graduated from Waukegan Public Schools, I know firsthand the good and the bad about what our schools have to offer. Over the last 4 years, I've worked to make a difference in the lives of children and improve Waukegan Public Schools for all. I've worked to help build a deeper relationship between the district and the community that it serves. I've also spearheaded efforts to further improve our school buildings and facilities. I've worked with the board to make sure that our students have the academic foundation needed to be successful. As a district and as a community, we have so much we can be proud of, and there have been many achievements to celebrate over the last 4 years, but there's still so much work that needs to be done. So I'm running for re-election because I want to continue that work, and I look forward to allowing the voters to get to know me a little bit more as they make their decision.
Thank you. Dr. Shipley, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you once again for having us this evening. My name is Harleen Rick Shipley. I am a lifelong Bulldog, graduated from Waukegan High School years ago. I'm a retired educator. I started in District 60 as a teacher. Then I became an assistant principal, a principal, and a central office administrator. Upon leaving the district, I have continued working in the community with families as it relates to advocacy, a lot of that in special education, and trying to address the disproportionality as it relates to placement and as it relates to suspensions, expulsions, that type of thing. Education is my wheelhouse. I am running for the school board because I really want to see some things happen in the district that are going to improve and increase student academic achievement. That's where it starts. As we're talking about the classroom, we need to beef up the general education classrooms. We need to give the majority of our students a chance to stay in the general education classrooms and be successful. So I think I will bring that to the table. And once again, thank you for having me this evening.
Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Castellanos, go ahead.
Thank you for having us, for the invitation. Thank you for everyone in attendance. My name is Edgar Castellanos. I'm a current sitting board member for the Waukegan School District, and I am running for a 4-year term. I have a 5th grader at Oakdale Elementary, and I became interested in working for the school district, volunteering for the school district when I became involved in my son's PTO. I started seeing a problem with curriculum and other needs in the school district. So the obvious next step for me was to get into the school district and join the board and help pass policies that build equity and that impact my son and everyone else in the school district, every student. There's a lot more work to do, especially after this pandemic. There's been a lot of learning loss. So I hope to get elected for the next 4 years to continue the work and make this district what I envision and lead it to the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Hannah, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
I apologize. Good evening, everyone. My name's Anita Hannah. I'm a lifelong resident of Waukegan. Graduated from Waukegan High School. I have an AAS degree in law enforcement with minor courses in sociology. I have a bachelor's of arts degree in criminal justice and political science from Carthage College. I have 3 granddaughters that are currently attending Waukegan schools, 11th grader, 9th grader, and a 5th grader, getting ready to transition to higher grades. I am running to retain my seat as a board member. And my philosophy and belief is that education is the heartbeat of knowledge, and a school district, along with the family and the students, we all have a responsibility to provide education, a quality education, an equitable education, and so that it lasts a lifetime. And yes, there are many good things that are happening in the district. And as you've already heard, there's many more. There's much more work that needs to be done. And with the focus of my big thing is reading. Our children must learn to read at grade level in order for them to have a true quality of life as they enter into their adolescence, young adults, and then to finally be an adult. And so one of my big focuses is ensuring that programs and funding is put where we can actually produce lifelong readers that will last a lifetime. And so I'm asking for the voters to trust me and reelect me so I can continue with that work.
Thank you so much. And next up is Dawn Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dawn Johnson. No, I am not a native of Waukegan. However, I have been here 26 plus years. I raised my children, 4 children that graduated from Waukegan High School, from elementary to middle school to high school. I now raise my grandson, and I would like to see more families be a part of the decisions, know what the policies are so that they can be more involved. I would like to see more transparent from the school to the classroom. And I really would like to see resource programs so that children and families could be a part and they all can develop skills that can have children be more successful in the classroom as well as productive adults. I have been advocating for the last several years with parents that may not understand certain things. And when you come together with the community and the board, I think me being a part of it will allow the community to feel a part when we gather together. So my point of getting involved with the district is because I have seen a little bit of disconnection from the school to the community. When I raised my children, the school was the extended family, and I haven't seen that in the last few years. So my involvement is to build that relationship, partner with the community, be able to put some programs that strengthen the education, academics, as well as with programs and resource. Thank you.
Wonderful. And then we have Mr. Oscar Arroyo, who's also running. Please go ahead, Oscar, or Mr. Arroyo.
Oh, hello. How you doing? Thanks for having me. Honestly, I just got on this call. I do not know what the question was or anything exactly. To pretend I just literally hopped on this, like, as soon as Miss Hannah was talking, that's when I hopped in on the call.
Okay, just introducing yourself and why you're running.
Okay, well, my name is Oscar Arroyo Jr. I was born here in this beautiful town of Waukegan. The reason why I'm running is when I graduated back in high school, back in 2008, and my sister graduated in 2018, which is 10 years. A lot hasn't changed within that time. Some things have changed, but it hasn't been drastic. It's 10 years. 10 years is a long time, and a lot of stuff hasn't been done. And I feel there's a lot of miscommunication or missed stuff that it's not being done with the kids that should be done. And I want to be that bridge to help out the kids with the school and after school programs and stuff that we need in our schools that I feel like should be there, not just sports, but other activities too for our children that go to Waukegan Public School.
Great. So now we've heard from all the candidates. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for the evening, Kim Holmes. Kim Holmes has 40 years of experience in the tech space with a wealth of knowledge of commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion as her work for the consulting firm Inclusion Nation. Kim and her husband Tim did live in Waukegan for almost 20 years. They raised their children in District 60, attending Andrew Cook, Thomas Jefferson Junior High, and Waukegan High. Tim's sister also attended the special ed program at Lincoln Center. Kim served on the Waukegan School Board from 1985 to 1989, during a time when the district faced challenges surrounding the high school consolidation, the need for the expansion of the bilingual education, and the growth of unfunded mandates coupled with declining funding. Community is Corda Kim. She currently serves on the boards of the Northern Illinois Food Bank and, more importantly, Illinois Families for Public Schools. She currently mentors entrepreneurs and staff at the Tech Hub 1871 in Chicago, and students who are part of the National Black MBA Association's Leader of Tomorrow. She has her Bachelor of Arts in Humanities from Shimer College and has also earned a Master of Nonprofit Administration from North Park University. Thank you so much for joining us, Kim. It's so important to have someone with your depth of experience to lead this discussion. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Samai. Thank you so much for hosting this forum. I feel like I am in the presence of family. I know I see friends of friends on this call, and so it feels good to be home. Let's start with picking up on some of the themes that each of you highlighted in your bios. Let's start with trust and transparency. I heard that from a number of the candidates as well as from Representative Mayfield. What do you feel are the most important ways for the district to foster trust and a strong relationship with the community? Last year, the superintendent dissolved the Parent-Teacher Advisory Council and appointed new members due to an impasse over the student code of conduct. Is that consistent with your view of how the district should conduct community relations? And I'll start going across who I see on Zoom. So we'll start with Adriana.
Hi. Thank you, Ms. Holmes, for the question. I I don't think it was as consistent as what we want to do in the district. And, maybe other people who are part of the board have a closer relationship with the superintendent can sort of describe the intentionality behind that, because I know that there was back and forth. But I think if you want to build trust, you have to be as communicative as possible and as amicable as possible in those processes, especially when there are differences of opinion. I think what makes conversations difficult is that when, people want and have the best intentions, but not the best means of going about approaching the problem, or have different frameworks for approaching the problem, right? So I feel like if we want to, moving forward, elect a board that really takes into consideration the not only the suggestions and recommendations and advice of people who are, saying that they're noticing something wrong, but implementing changes that need to be done to address those problems. I think that we need to, be reflective in those conversations and say where we're experiencing a gap or a misunderstanding, and going about communicating that to the community, because I know that there are parents, there are teachers, and there are community members who do want to contribute to our school district, but feel like they haven't had the means or the right communication to do so.
Thank you. Mr. Ewing.
Yeah, so the first 2 years I was on the board, I actually sat on the PTAC committee. And I do think that at the time we needed to hit a refresh with some of the impasses that were happening between both the district and the committee. I think in retrospect, and not even in retrospect, even at the time, is my standard and stance is always that you try and work through those differences, and that you have the tough conversations and you do the hard things. But there also is a very specific task that the PTAC needed to perform. And it seemed like every year there were difficulties with getting it done. And I also think it allows the opportunity to allow a multitude of voices, right? So each year, different individuals could be a part of that PTAC committee. So I think when we look at the PTAC and the other committees of the board, there's always been a not just a goal, but a commitment to making sure that we do involve the community in that process. And one of the things that I think was missing, right, is just even with the meetings is making sure that we involved a translator and making sure that the meetings were done on a consistent basis. And I believe that those difficulties made it difficult for both the members and the district. I'm glad to see that it's improved this school year. And if reelected, I would hope to continue to see it improved in the future.
Thank you. Dr. Shipley.
Well, I think the board has to set the tone that they want to hear from all community members, even if the issues and concerns are ones that the district administration doesn't embrace. And I think that this administration has worked very hard to eliminate the voices of some segments of the community. And the board should have stood up at those times and said, no, that's not how we're going to operate. The PTAC is, there have been members of the PTAC who have received letters. Thank you for your service, but no thank you. Okay, so they have chosen not to come back this year and submit their names once again because of the disrespect they were shown. So while you're saying that things are working better this year, you have isolated another segment of the community, and now they are taking other avenues and they are doing other things to express their concerns about what's going on in the district. So I think the board has to step up and say, no, it may not be something that we're comfortable with hearing, but we want to hear all of our constituents' voices.
Thank you so much. Mr. Castellanos.
Thank you. I want to touch on transparency. I think building a reputation from transparency will take you far. And that's very important for a school district and a committee like PTAC. I currently work for a school district and we don't have a PTAC. So I am spearheading building this. And it's been a few months in getting members, effective members, to come and set the tone, set the standard on how moving forward, this will help lift the school district. Committees like PTAC and BPAC only make a school district better. You need good members to be a part of it. And we have to keep doing a good job at recruiting members from all corners of the school district. Everyone needs to participate. Everyone needs to have a say on what important topics need to be discussed in these committee meetings and be brought to the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hannah?
Okay, trust and transparency. First and foremost, I'm going to say it like this. Adult issues must never impede the communication between schools and committees that represent parents and the community. The focus must remain on what is beneficial for children and for our students. The trust at this point must be, there must be an intentional effort to get that back within our community and our schools. And I will continue to work for that purpose. And when you talk about transparency within the educational institution or organization that we're in, it should come automatic. Okay, we are educating, or we're there for the purpose of educating the community's children. And so it is only right for the community parents and taxpayers, because we're using their money, that they should know how our schools are functioning, the conditions of our schools, whether it's good or bad. We need to stay in communication with all that are involved, because it only benefits the children. And I will continue to work with that and for that, you know, and so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Dawn?
Well, thank you for that question. I was a part of the PTAC, and that made me feel like my voice was included. I would go and parents would go and they would share their concerns. And at that time, it was moving forward. I thought I was feeling welcome. I was able to address some questions and learn some issues and concerns that was going on throughout the community as well as the district. So when you talk about trust, that trust was being built. Then last year, the trust was just broken. It stopped. There was no type of, to my understanding, reasoning of why the PTAC was changed. So when you talk about transparency, that there is the reason why we have to be transparent when we want to recreate the wheel that was moving forward. So what I would like to say is the PTAC is the strength to the community. That is the door that allows the parents and the students to be able to come and address matters and learn what policies and other things that go with the structure of the school, so that the students' academics will be a part. So I believe that the PTAC was broken, and when that was broken, the trust was broken, as well as the transparency from community to parents, as well as the district of the board. So thank you. I think that is much needed to come back together. And those members that was a part should have had a chance to know why they were not a part of it, or know what's going to go forward with this new PTAC because I didn't even know until I received the letter. Thank you.
Mr. Arroyo.
Yeah, can you repeat the question again for me one more time, please?
I will.
Thank you.
What do you feel are the most important ways for the district to foster trust and a strong relationship with the community? Last year, the superintendent dissolved the Parent-Teacher Advisory Council, the PTAC, and appointed new members due to an impasse over the student code of conduct. Is that consistent with your view of how the district should conduct community relations?
All right, great. Thank you for repeating the question. For me is I know sometimes there's a language barrier. So with being transparent, sometimes it's not really good at being transparent because a lot of people, the language issue is a problem. So it's a language barrier. And a lot of the parents like to be involved within the school, but also too, they fear that they don't have somebody where they can translate it to anything that's going on within the school, what's going on with their children, things like that. So for me, I think one of the candidates said that we probably need somebody to translate, and I think it's there. But sometimes we have to assure to the parents that's actually happening so they can be more encouraged to reach out. Because a lot of parents do want to help out, but also, like I said, there is that language barrier where we need to kind of gap a bridge right there and help them out with. So that's pretty much what I got at the moment.
Thank you all for your answers to that question. I'm going to pivot a little bit to another critical matter facing not only Waukegan, but school districts around the country, that being COVID-19. The most pressing issue this past year has been the district's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Last March, a number of parents had complaints about the district's ability to provide learning support for the diverse needs of a district as large as Waukegan. How do you believe the district handled the pandemic and coming up the reopening process? What steps would you have liked to see the district take, and what do you propose that the district do as you're on the verge of reopening? I will start. Let's start with Mr. Arroyo. Let's let you go first this time.
All right, great. So I don't have to ask to repeat the question again. No, I like that. I like that. Okay, to the pandemic, obviously, it was unfortunately what happened to the pandemic. A lot of the kids suffer, and a lot of parents also suffered. Pretty much in a nutshell, a lot of parents treat the school as a daycare. It's like, because a lot of parents work, they can't take care of the kids. So now a lot of parents, I've been talking to a lot of parents, and a lot of parents have started working out third shift just to help out their kids, and then most of them being at home because they can't find nobody. So they use kind of the school to be a babysitter. Reopening the schools is, we have the gyms. The gyms, we can divide them and put the kids there so they can be separate from each other, being 6 feet apart from each other. Also, obviously wearing masks. I know it's going to be hard having, especially younger kids, even older kids, them having masks on. It's going to be a pain, but it's something we have to work. And I think we should allow for some of the kids to start coming back, going to school, because some of the kids don't learn remote learning. Like example, me, I'm not a good remote learner. For me, I cannot do classes online. I'm more hands-on. I have to be there in person. To this day, even though I'm 30 years old, I'm still old school. People's like, oh, you could check your bank account, pay your mortgage through online. I'm like, yes, I could. I know I can. But I personally go into person, having that encounter with somebody and talking with somebody. And a lot of those kids need that. Us as humans, we're not designed to be by ourselves. That's why also too, when people are there in jail and they're incarcerated, they can't be incarcerated and locked in 24/7. They need to get out and socialize with somebody. Because if you don't get socialized, that's when people start acting a little bit strange, a little bit different. So with the kids going back, we can do it, and we could do it efficiently. It's going to take a process, but I think we could start acclimating some kids in and start letting the ones that the parents encourage, like, you know what, they need to go back. And I understand there's some kids that have some disabilities that there's going to be a little bit harder, and then those kids need more attention. But like I said, we could do this, and we can't do it. We can't go in blindly. We actually have to do it and focus it and take our time with it and go slowly with it. But for us to reopen the schools.
Thank you. Dawn.
Hi, with this pandemic has touched so many lives. And through the pandemic, children as well as families have experienced so much through the changing of a loss of a job, a loved one, and even with the education system. So, what do I feel has happened with the pandemic, or what we can do to improve the pandemic? I think a lot of times we need to make sure that we provide the families with the structure to understand the pandemic, because the students going on remote learning, that was something very new to so many families. So I think a lot of times we have to provide the resource, the programs, and some structure so that the families and the community with the district will be able to move forward. So as we do get ready to move forward, I think that we have to make sure we involve the community, let them know what's going on. We give Zoom webinars and make sure that they are informed and they do know. And if they have any questions, they have to ask those questions to be comfortable. Because of this pandemic, so many families are a little worried, as well as other family members that take care of children. So with the pandemic, I think we need more resource programs provided to the parents in the community.
Thank you so much. Ms. Gonzalez.
Yeah, so I know that this is gonna not please certain people, but I know I don't have kids in the district, so I say this considering who actually makes the decisions to bring their kids to the schools. Um, this pandemic, even at 24 years old, has been so traumatic because so many people have lost loved ones. Like Ms. Dawn Johnson said, so many people have lost jobs. They're struggling on many different fronts. So when I read the news and I see that, our cases are increasing, that, other countries are having lockdowns. France, Prime Minister Macron just shut down schools for 3 more weeks. When I hear headlines like that, I do get scared and I fear the worst. So my position has always been to finish off the school year not going back. And I know that that's not easy for a lot of families. I know that we are eager to open back up. I know we want our economy open back up. I know we want our kids in the classroom, but we're expecting kids to perform at the same level during a once in a lifetime crisis. And I don't think that that's healthy for them. It would have been a lot better to say to staff, to families, to teachers, say, hey, we are going to open back up for the fall. Get ready. Let's get everyone tested. Let's get summer school. And those of us who maybe don't have summer school, let's get prepared for the fall. No excuses. And do it that way. I think logistically that would have helped us a lot. Because our high school just said that there's remote learning on April 5th, and that's hard to keep track of, especially if you're not cognizant of the changes day to day. I think that as much as the district has done to prioritize the health of our staff, students, and teachers, that logistically and just the reality that we're currently in still, that it would have been better to save off. But I was really proud that our district stood up and said, hey, no, we're not opening up right away where other districts were. That being said, I think also that it is important to understand that education itself has changed, right? Going back to school, whether the cases go down and everyone gets vaccinated, it is going to look different, and that's okay. Technology is our future, whether we like it or not, and the challenges that come with it are something that all of our youth are going to need to be prepared for. So I'm looking forward to the innovation that's happening, and it is going to continue happening in the classroom. I think that, in order to leave no one behind in terms of who we get into the workforce, that we need to prioritize it in our curriculum. And it's something that students could get excited about, because what we're experiencing now is a generation that doesn't know what it's like not to have an iPad, a cell phone, the internet. And I think where maybe past generations have seen it as a weakness, we really see it as a tool, and something that could better acclimate them to the 21st century and the world that they're going to enter. So I want to bring that nuance to this conversation. And I hope that when people are understanding what the realities the district is facing, that it's not ever an easy decision. And I recognize that. But I think that going forward, and I'm hoping that the cases go down, but that would have been my stance, because I know I don't want to frame it as learning loss, but the socio-emotional and the academic strains on students right now is something that we've honestly not been prepared for.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hannah.
Okay, okay, the question was, what you were asking about the reopening and what steps would
you have liked to see the district take with regard to handling the pandemic, and what would be your suggestions for moving forward?
Okay, well, first and foremost, I would have loved to see more total collaboration, and that every aspect of our school district was involved in making plans, making decisions as far as how we're going to reopen, with the troubleshooting that possibly could have happened to make a quality, comprehensive opening plan. And I mean, and that means everybody: administrators, maintenance, nurses, teachers, food service, transportation, athletics, safety, vendors, finances, everybody together, working together to work on the plan. Excuse me. And to work on the plan that would go toward reopening our schools safely and with children in mind. And I think one of the things that I would like to see moving forward is that parents really be given the training to understand all of the technology. And that many parents, they may have never had the opportunity to even use technology. And so we need to show them, train them, provide the devices that they would need to learn technology. We talk about the parents going into the portals to check on the students' grades and classes. Many of the parents don't even know about that. And so we need to make sure that that is in place. And as far as the technology for the students, we need to make sure, and I understand that we're in the era of technology right now. However, we also cannot forget, and there has to be a balance between technology and fundamental education. Our children need to understand the reading, the writing, the science, the math, and it doesn't all have to come with technology. Okay, it's a challenge for parents to help even before the pandemic, to help their students, because again, they didn't understand all of the new math. They didn't understand any of that. So we need to make a more, I'm gonna use the word transparent system where we're educating our parents along with our students. And so those are the steps that I would like to see moving forward.
Thank you. Dr. Shipley.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about board expectations. I have always felt that the board should have the expectation that the superintendent is collaborating on all aspects of what's going on in the district. Prior to COVID, I spoke to many of the board members about the Regional Office of Education has monthly meetings where the superintendents in Lake County sit down and they talk about different issues. And the fact that our superintendent did not regularly attend or attend the meetings. They're not mandatory, but it's an opportunity for you to brainstorm, to network with superintendents in your area about things that are going on. Okay, so then COVID hits. So I called some of the superintendents and I said, okay, what are you guys talking about? They're talking about things that are happening. They're talking about their plans for when they go back. They're talking about different phases. They're talking about remote learning, hybrid learning. They're talking about bringing in more technicians so they can divide the population so the parents have more access to help with how to turn on their computers, how to do the things that they have to do now at home. So my question is, what was our superintendent there? No. I said, please text me the next time you have a meeting. Let me know some of the things that you're talking about, and let me know if our superintendent is involved. Okay, so I think that if you're going to talk about unprecedented times, the board has to have the expectations that there's going to be some collaboration and some type of understanding that you have to go out and work with people, so we're not always playing catch up. Why does Waukegan always have to play catch up? Why can't we be working through the problems even before they become ours and learning from other districts in our area? Okay, so that's one thing that I feel that has been missing through this COVID experience. I feel that even things like meal distribution, as opposed to having it at schools where the community is familiar with. And Dawn Johnson could speak more to this because she was out there actually gathering meals for people who felt they were embarrassed to wait at a corner for meals, to pick up their meals at a bus stop. So she was out there in her car catering and trying to get the meals for people and stuff like that. Something that's simple could make the experience easier. Taking people to one site in the district to help them turn on their computer and then get there and find out that they have a bill that they didn't know about. Okay, the parents are trying to get access to remote learning only to be slapped with a bill that has been delinquent. Okay, this type of stuff. Okay, and then they're calling advocates and saying, what should I do? So the board should have said, okay, we're going to do whatever it takes to help and support the families during this time of COVID, and we'll work out all these other issues later on. But our expectation is that we're going to stay focused on student achievement and what our families need during this time.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ewing.
Yeah, when we closed schools back in March, it was people said we should have closed earlier. People said we shouldn't have closed when we did. One of the things that I learned from being on the board was one of the hardest decisions that we had was to close the schools during a snowstorm, because what we knew is when those doors closed that some students wouldn't eat, right? So to close the doors of Waukegan Public Schools without knowing when our students would return was extremely difficult. But I would commend the efforts and the budget and the money and the resources that the board put into it. We laid off not a single employee. We purchased additional technology. And when that technology was on a delay, we essentially opened up our buildings and anything that we had, if it was a Chromebook, if there were computers, laptops, Chromebooks that weren't in use, we had pickup days for staff. The bus transportation, as I was there the first day that we tried to use sites, and seeing an overwhelming amount of individuals that showed up created what I saw as a potential for a hotspot. And these were people who had need. So the idea of using the buses and keeping our bus drivers employed, I thought was an extremely creative way in order to allow individuals to still receive those services. So I think that there were a tremendous amount of time, effort, resources that was put into it. I do think that one of the things that we need to improve on. And it was an issue even before we closed schools. And that was addressing the mental health needs of our students. And that is my focus as we return our students to our public schools, is making sure that we have the resources in place in order to address those social emotional needs. Honestly, in full transparency, I was not planning to run for re-election. One of the main reasons that I am is that I feel that the information and being there at the table when certain decisions have been made and why they were made, and also the care and concern, as I say, is my student is in Waukegan Public Schools. Every decision that I make impacts him as well. And so from a board perspective, I think that what we want to do is stress to our students as they come back is that we understand that as a nation, as a community, in our city of Waukegan, we've been through a traumatic experience. We want to make sure that we welcome our students back in a safe way, but that we start to get back to some sense of normal and start to repair what we anticipate is at least a year in learning loss. The fact that we were able to get up and going as quickly as we did, the fact that we've been able to maintain, the fact that we committed as a board to, working with the superintendent to make sure that we allowed our staff to receive the vaccine before they came back, I think were all important steps. And now the focus has to be on how we return our students to our building safely.
Thank you. Mr. Castellanos.
Thank you. I want to piggyback off that. One of my favorite things that Waukegan did this time around when schools had to close was the hotspot buses and even how they advertised that. That was so creative. When I saw it, I smiled, because that's, in a time of the unknown and uncertainty, the only way to succeed is to be creative. That's one of my favorite things that the district did. This time around, last year, I was helping distribute paper packets to the school district that I work for. Waukegan, what one school district does not work for another school district. The way Waukegan and the team did it, and the way they distribute packets and Chromebooks, again, creative, blew some districts out of the water. They did a really good job of that. One thing that they do now, coming back into this school year that we're currently on, is the scheduling of tech support. I've been there 4 times, and how they streamline the tickets, how they help parents. Every time I go, I get into the mindset of, okay, what if I'm not tech savvy? What if I don't speak the language? Am I having the parent experience that I should have in the school district? The answer is yes. That's one of the things that this school district continues to do very well, and I'm very proud of that. Another thing that I want to talk about is the new era of education. If you are in the education field, if you are volunteering for education, like we all intend to do, this should be an exciting time for you. Education will never be the same. One of the best things that this pandemic did for every school district is forced school districts who were not one-to-one, meaning every child has a device, they now have a one-to-one school district, so they all have devices. Best thing that came out of this pandemic, hands down. Emergency days, right? Every school gets 5 emergency days at the end of the calendar year. That might not even be a thing anymore, because we're able to attend virtually classrooms. The way we teach, the way we test is now changing. Come next school year, there's been conversations about the school year is going to look like it did before, but with masks, right? That's the conversations that are happening now. I want to remind everyone that at the start of the school year, we still didn't know what to do, right? The guidance always changed every week. No one knew what they were doing. There was a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings, but at the end of the day, it was trial and error. I work for a school district who opened since the beginning of the school year. I know what it takes to open a school year during a pandemic. It is hard. I said it during board meetings when we were planning to reopen the school year for Waukegan's, for our district, and it's hard. There is employee burnout every week, right? But it's what's best for our students. giving a good quality education to our students in this pandemic is also one thing that the school district did very well. I remember hearing my son just jumping and running, and what are you doing? I'm in gym class, right? What a thing. That's the quality of education that the district was ever able to offer our students during this global pandemic. So I'm proud of how we handled the situation, considering that this is new for many of us. And that's all I want to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's candor in response to that question. We're going to jump to one of our Facebook viewers who has a question, and I'm going to start with Mr. Ewing. The question is, what do candidates think about the future of school resource officers in Waukegan?
That there will be a day very soon when they are not necessary. I think as we look at our SROs, currently we have 2, and we look at the impact on SROs in our public school settings, that I would like to see a day when we move away from having those resource officers there. Currently, when you talk to parents, and we did a survey, right? A majority of our parents actually, and students for that matter, wanted the resource officers to remain in place. But I think as we look at our school to prison pipeline and how schools contribute to the over-incarceration, particularly of minority students, is we have to think long and hard about the long-term impacts of having police officers in schools. I think a lot of times when we think of our SROs, we think of officer friendly. I know we had SROs when I was in school, and they were our neighbors, right? They were individuals who we knew. I think that policing has changed, and I think that we must look long and hard about what we want in Waukegan Public Schools and what we want our students to feel when they walk our hallways. We have metal detectors. We also have officers, right? So what are we doing? What restorative justice practices are we embracing in order to make sure that there no longer becomes the need to have SROs? So it's an ongoing conversation. It's one that I actually started and facilitated as the current board president, along with our own chief of police in Waukegan. And I think it was a good first step to talk about how do you reimagine the role of our SROs in our public schools.
Thank you. Ms. Hannah.
The first thing that comes to my mind is what it would be the purpose of the SROs in our schools. I think that needs to be clearly defined. Are you there for policing? Are you there to be those officer friendly or the mentoring of students? Basically, from what I used to know that SROs were, even though we are policing is changing due to the societal issues that we are going through right now, just like the pandemic, social justice, and so forth. The perception that many people have of the police officers, just because they're police officers, maybe they don't have to be put in police garb, okay? And maybe just the expectations of them, if we have to have them in our schools, okay, we don't have to continue the prison the prison pipeline that everybody is talking about. We don't have to do that. We have to set forth expectations of anybody that comes in our schools that will have direct contact with our students. Set the expectations. And I don't think that was done. And so it it kind of did not work out the way that it used to, I'll say that.
Thank you so much. Mr. Arroyo.
Sorry. For me, the SROs, I think it's a good thing, and I'm gonna say why is a good thing, because stuff like Columbine has happened, so that's why I believe why we should have the SRO. But the SRO should not be involved with the students. Like, let's say example, if a students get into a fight, they should break it up. There's a lot of there's a lot of footage out there in the internet where I have kids with a police officer, the teacher will call them, and then the SRO would slam the kid onto the floor. For me, that's not tolerable. The SRO should not do that. And the SRO should only be involved when there's like, say, like something like Columbine, with hope that never happens. But you never know. We live in a world where anything can happen nowadays. And also too, a parent could come, or somebody else from the community could come, or a staff member. But the SRO should be more a person there where kids get talked to if anything's going on in the school, being bullying, maybe even being sexually harassed by either a student or a staff member. But else that, SRO should be in school, but it should be a fine line what they should do. They should be there more as something tragic will happen, not just for just them being there for any little thing. Like Ms. Hannah said, the school to prison pipeline, that I'm against that. There's nothing wrong with having an SRO at school, but for the right reasons, not for the incorrect reasons. So that's a catch-22 where it can boil down. And a lot of people might tell me that it might not work, but it does work. And the police officer's there just as almost like as a vigilante. That's my outlook on that.
Thank you, Mr. Arroyo. Dr. Shipley.
You're welcome.
Currently, the data does not support having SROs in the schools as it relates to violent offenses of vandalism and things like that. So the data doesn't support that. Last year, the board received a presentation on the SROs, and prior to the presentation, it was stated that they were not going to look at the two buildings where they're housed as individuals, that they were going to be presented together. Well, that's the issue. We have two SROs at the two high school campuses. Their interaction with students is very different. And if you're not going to have the type of interaction that is of a positive nature, that is of a nurturing, of a mentoring nature, then the program has to be revamped. Until that happens, then you need to look at removal. As one of the community members who sat down with the police department to talk about this subject, the police department admitted that you have a seasoned SRO and then you have someone else who is just learning. I said, okay, well, you need to have more professional development. And having been a principal in the school where there was an SRO, not everyone is suited to be an officer in the school system. Having gone through those interviews, I was a principal when the first SROs were put in middle schools, and there were 15 people who applied, and we quickly whittled it down to 5 for our middle schools. And then we chose among the principals based on, who we thought would fit our buildings. So just because you want to be in the schools with the students doesn't mean that you have the skill set to do that job. So if we have things that are contrary to a positive environment for our students, then we need to eliminate those as well.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, I saw you raise your hand while Dr. Shipley was speaking, so maybe you should go next.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes. I don't believe that the SRO, especially at this time, I believe that the SRO can bring more uncomfortable space with some children. I'm not saying all children, but so many parents as well as students see them as law enforcement. They're going to enforce the law, not the policies of the school, not giving a child a second chance. So I am a little concerned about the SROs at this time. Children have witnessed so much in the last few years across the world regarding law enforcement. So if we want to make a child comfortable in school, sometimes we got to bring some of these familiar faces back into schools. Fathers, grandfathers, uncles, security guards. Maybe we can invest more in the social work services, mentor, tutoring programs that will give that child that support that they need within the school. No, I do not believe that the SRO at this time, especially what we're going through, especially with even deportation, even with law enforcement. So I really think that we really should consider not bringing the law into the schools. Let's bring some love and some support that the students need with that income, maybe some resource programs, maybe some more security guards, services that will take the place of that SRO. So yes, I am at this present time think that we need to reconsider the contract that students see a officer in the school, and the only thing that they can really reflect from that officer is the law enforcement. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Castellanos.
Thank you. I think we will get to a point where SROs won't be in our buildings. And we also have to think about police officers as being part of our community in Waukegan. I believe that the police department knows and have acknowledged that police officers don't need to be called for every situation. It just sometimes requires some de-escalation. Being in education, I imagine of a plan that we would ask the police department to send their SROs to social emotional training where they can de-escalate situations that, not necessarily require what they currently learn at a 5-month training academy. So expand that, right? And then we know that if they are in our buildings, once they're out, they still have that training and they're still part of the community, because our students might bump into such individual at a store, out in the park, and having that training outside of the buildings would be very beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Gonzalez.
All right, y'all gonna get me in trouble. I think context is everything, right? And for me, what I want people who are more for the audience, right? People who are learning or maybe engaging with this issue, talking about it, or listening to people talk about it for the very first time. I think how we envision safety has been ascribed to, having police in our communities and seeing someone in uniform that is assigned to protect us, be present. And although that is not inherently awful, the outcomes that we're seeing even within our schools are really troublesome. And I've said this a couple of times, and I feel like it's so important for me to position myself this way, because I want our communities to understand what we're saying when we're talking about these issues. Is that I was a nerd in school, took all the high honor roll classes, all the AP classes, right? Ended up at one of the most prestigious colleges in this nation. But I'm a light-skinned Latina that had privileges that not many students have. And my experiences in education and my experiences in life are different than other people's. And so when we talk about policing, we are remiss if we don't mention the kind of discourse right now happening, within the Black community, within the immigrant community, about, criminalization, about, brutal use of force. And, last year when I, in conjunction with several other Latino friends who are alumni of the schools, when we brought to the board these issues of school resource officers in opposition to having them in the schools, it came from an understanding of outcomes and an understanding of disciplinary policy. Because what we're seeing, and as I've been studying it myself, even in past years of college, is that you are seeing referrals of students with disabilities, Black students, at disproportionate rates to law enforcement. And although, as the district created a survey and conducted that survey in response to some of our advocacy, which had already been going on way before we got on that ship, is that while people think that this is normal, right? Students may not see it as an issue, teachers might not see it as an issue, is that the culture shock of going to a college where other students don't have that same experience can be life-changing, right? And you start to feel like you're a little bit different based on the community that you come from. And so when I say that I don't think that they should be used in the school, I come at it from a disciplinary policy perspective. I'm not saying, F the police. I'm not saying I'm not undermining the work that some great people in the profession are doing. But what I'm saying is that the outcomes that we're seeing are not aligned with the values that I hold, and I hope that the district does not hold, right? What would it mean to have a liaison to the schools, not necessarily in the schools, but on call at all times during school hours to address very serious either altercations or threats? What could that look like instead? And, to sort of bring the point home, what I want our communities to start realizing is that when we invest in policing and when we invest in prisons, right, when we sort of ascribe certain students these very specific outcomes, that they can start to sort of give up on any other trajectory from themselves. And I believe that every student has the capacity to create their own trajectory. I think that every student, given the resources, has the same potential, but it's about knowing what their communities are facing, what conversations are happening, and what they may seem as triggering behavior, or not triggering behavior, but triggering factors in their community that might lead them to misbehave, right? I think what a lot of our community sometimes doesn't understand is why there is a school to prison pipeline, why it's called school to prison pipeline, because it's in schools where they find themselves referred to law enforcement in the first place, an institution that you wouldn't think would refer them to another destination like that. So, I know it's not easy to talk about this issue. I know that many people have different opinions about it. But for me, I prioritize our resources, the limited ones that we have, to ensuring student success. And I don't see our SRO program being aligned with that. I understand that safety is a problem, but I advocate for preventative wraparound services, preventative measures, to check in with students periodically so that they don't feel like they have anything to lose when they make a life-changing act like that. The counterpoint I understand is, school shootings like Columbine, school shootings like Parkland. But what I want the community to understand, and what I want people to also keep in mind, is that there was lawsuits against the school resource officers for not intervening in those situations. I think of Parkland specifically. They had SROs and they did not intervene in that school shooting. And so that, I come at it with a lot of heaviness, because I know that, the more that we want to encourage educators to go into education, or future people to go into education, that this is even a topic of discussion. I don't like that it's even something that we have to discuss. But I feel like the more we start to shift our sense of safety to be more proactive rather than reactive could be really beneficial, because I don't want our students to be engaging in something like this, right? Referrals to law enforcement or violence, etc. And to normalize behavior like that, because it's honestly, I don't think it's not something that our students want to experience and normalize for themselves to begin with.
Thank you so much. I'm looking through the list of Facebook questions and I'm looking for what's going to be that final question that we ask before we give you all a chance to get to the voters with one last pitch on this forum for why you should be elected to the District 60 School Board. I'm going to take, there's two questions that have come in, and I'm going to do my best to pull them together into one question. So take notes. It's a meaty question. As we look at the impact of the pandemic, there's been lots of talk around what our students have lost because of the pandemic, but there are Facebook viewers who contend, and I would agree from having sat where you either are sitting or want to sit, that social emotional learning, equity, technology were issues long before the pandemic in Waukegan. And so this is your chance to tell the Facebook viewers what your plans are to address these systemic issues through a lens of equity. And with that same equity lens, talk about what your plans would be to address learning loss in the fall. Meaty question, and I'm not going to give you a lot of time to answer it because we are coming close to the end of our program. So, systemic issues that were highlighted by the pandemic, not caused by the pandemic, right? Longer standing issues, and the learning loss that has been caused due to the pandemic. Putting on your equity lens, how would you plan to address those? Let's start with Ms. Johnson.
Well, thank you. What I would like to see, especially with the needs of this last pandemic, is resource programs. And I would like to hear more from the parents as well as the students. I would like to see more Zoom sessions so that the parents will be able to speak out, not just at school board meetings. So as we move forward, I would like for us to get the data, look at the data, see the breakdown of the services that students are needing so that we are able to move them forward along with their parents. Because at this time, so many students have fallen back instead of have moved forward. So as I explained, I would like, as a school board member, to be able to put those policies that we have in place, look at those policies, make sure that we look at the funding, we look at the needs of the students as well as the parents in our community, and be able to say, we're going to do this and that so that we can move our children with higher expectations, with the goals that they need within their education. So let's be able to bring these families together. As you said at the beginning, let's build the trust, let's be transparent, let's put policies that reflect the community. Let's be able to bring funding back into the schools and support the students as they move forward with technology, with resource programs, mentor, and tutoring, so that these students can get the services that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ewing. And I'm going to ask everyone to present it's a meaty question, but we're going to need crisp answers so we can be respectful of time. So, Mr. Ewing.
I will try my best, Ms. Holmes, but it is a meaty question and one which is why I ran, right? Oscar spoke to it. I graduated in 2010 from Waukegan High School, and some of the same issues that we are discussing today were being discussed then. And some of those same issues were being discussed when my brother graduated in 2005. So one of the ways that I have used my time is to bring other individuals through intergovernmental cooperation, right? Is a lot of times we ask a lot of our public schools, as we should, but we also have other entities that are responsible for some of those other systemic issues. And so it's important that you bring those different individuals and different government agencies to the table and then figure out a way to work together. I've been excited to build some of those relationships, and if reelected, we'll continue to do so. The other thing that I want to mention very briefly in respect of time is something that has really stood out to me, especially in the last 2 years, is that a budget is a moral document, and where your resources go, so go your values. The good thing about our new administration, and I'm talking about on the national level, is that there have been resources given to public schools, and thank you to State Rep Rita Mayfield, who has fought to adequately fund schools in Illinois. And we just received $44 million, which is supposed to be used to address the COVID slide or learning loss. And so if reelected as a board member, my commitment is that that money is put into the classroom. We have a budget. We just went through budget workshops. We've been doing a good job of living within our means. This resource needs to be directly targeted at our students. And so due to time, that is why I will leave my answer.
Thank you. Dr. Shipley.
I think that we have to have some policies that reflect equity and an aggressive timeline. I think that our new monies that we receive do have to go into beefing up the general education classroom and providing support to those teachers. I've spoken about that quite often, but I think we have to broaden our vision, because as a board, you just can't speak about it in a vacuum. We've talked about social emotional learning, but what has the board done this week when social emotional issues are higher now than in a long time, as our students and our primarily our Black males are reliving the George Floyd murder case. So are things going on now in the district, or are we just isolating it and are we speaking the talk and we're not really having things in place? So I think it has to be policy. I think it has to be followed through. And I think it has to be the expectation that all of this stuff affects academic achievement.
Thank you. Ms. Hannah.
Okay. The impact of the pandemic. First and foremost, look, we don't have data to be able to put resources anywhere, because we don't know the learning loss of our students, because, as I am being told, there's no real way to gather the data to show whether our students have been learning through all of this remote learning. Okay, I understand we cannot test according to ISB, but there needs to be a focus on just education. Okay, we need to support the parents. Okay, the plan cannot just be a meeting, greeting, talking plan. We need to implement things. We need to put things in implementation stage. We don't need to use pilots, because pilots are only a small sector of our education. And so due to time, I am looking for, as a board member, I want somebody to truly explain to me the definition of, when they say learning loss, what does that actually mean? What does learning loss? And you can't determine it if there's no data. So I'm looking to see all of the data, okay? And then we can turn around and put the resources where they're needed, okay, for our students to come back, even with social emotional. If we don't have data, what can we do? That's, data is important.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hannah. Mr. Arroyo.
For me, and that question, I'm gonna hit it real quick in a nutshell. A lot of the kids should have like after school programs. There's a lot of kids, like I said earlier, I'm not a hands-on person. Sorry, I'm a hands-on person. I'm not gonna learn good through online courses. So I feel like a lot of kids should have some after school programs so they can be taught and tutored. And also going with the parents, I don't know, because I don't have no kids, but I remember back when I was in elementary school in Waukegan, I remember the teachers used to call the parents, see how your kid was doing, your student was doing. And it was like that. Is that I don't know if that's still going on. I can't answer that question. I do not know because I don't have no kids at all. So maybe that's what we're lacking on. Maybe we should start reaching out, the teachers start reaching out to parents saying, hey, you know what? Your child is falling back on classes. We need help with this. Do they need help with that? And obviously some parents will know. Some parents might be naive about it. They probably don't know. But that's what we should also bring the parents involved with the school and say, hey, you got to sit down, talk to the teacher, have the kid there and talk to them and see what's going on. If something could be emotional with this, the child that's maybe not learning. It could be internally, it could be externally. But sometimes also too, like what Miss Hannah said, that the data doesn't show what the kids have lost of learning. That there's no point of proving it. And I'd heard from a lot of parents that a lot of kids, when they have their learning online, they just kind of have the computer on, and sometimes they don't even have their camera on. They're not even paying attention. They're either playing their game system or on social media or something else. They're not paying attention. So going with that, it should be more tutoring, and teachers should reach out to the parents and don't feel teachers should not be afraid to go out, reach out to the parents, and also to also help out the kids that also need more attention. That's why I feel like this should be done.
Thank you, Mr. Arroyo. Ms. Gonzalez.
All right, I'll try to be short, but it's not easy. So I thank everyone for bearing with us. Number one thing that comes to mind, especially because of COVID, is informing our community about vaccinations. I think that is important. I feel like if you're going to talk about, safety, you've got to be participating in conversations or amplifying the conversations that people are having in the community about why vaccinations are important and to begin with, in order to come back safely to schools or to any sort of normalcy as we understand it now. So that's my number one thing. I think a lot of fruitful discussions from that could be made too, because more, especially students of color, are looking to go to medical school. They see the inequalities, and I feel like we should be amplifying that work. I know Brandon and I have held Zoom with different people in the community to talk about that. As it relates specifically to the district, for these systemic issues, I think for me, it's, again, other people have already said it, it's strong civic engagement. Some parents don't know that the school board is the vehicle through which they can talk about their issues. And in my experience, having especially gone to this last school board meeting, it seems like they climax, something happens and they don't get answers for a really long time. And then they realize that, oh, I can make public comment at the school board, and I don't want that to happen. So understanding the different paths that parents have to advocate for their kids, and even the kids themselves, if they want to raise an issue, because they are stakeholders in this too. So amplifying the civic engagement part. And then something that I've been working on, and what I want the district to take on instead of foundations or nonprofits, et cetera, smaller groups, is what it would look like to have district-wide tutoring and sustained alumni engagement projects. And I feel like that would help address some of the systemic issues that we're experiencing as a district, and honestly, what we have been experiencing even prior to COVID. Because what we've seen is that we educate our best students, right, the top learners, and encourage them to leave Waukegan without any way of re-engaging, or they leave Waukegan and want to come back and sort of hodgepodge a different project every other year by themselves from the ground up to try to get some sort of alumni network or friend group going to do that work, or teachers take their personal time or their class time to invite us in individually instead of it being something district wide. And I feel like when students see someone who is not too far off, along their own journey, right? A couple years older than them, 5, 10, 15 years into a career, or maybe shifting a career. When they see that, when they hear that, they're more likely to understand, hey, it's hard right now. I have to get through school, but the outcomes of getting through that and finishing are going to be worthwhile because I see so-and-so doing what I want to do in the future. So I want to pitch that. I want to see what we could do with that $44 million that, the school board has been hearing about. And I think through all of that, changing the culture of the schools would help address some of the systemic issues that we've been experiencing.
Mr. Castellanos.
Thank you, Ms. Holmes. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. There are a number of problems that we've discussed this evening. Social emotional learning, technology were issues before the pandemic. Also, lots of talk about learning loss due to the pandemic. Using an equity lens, how would you suggest that the Waukegan District 60 School Board address those issues?
And then the second part was about data.
No, that was
learning
the
loss.
question. That was the question. It was answers that brought in the issue of data.
So I want to talk about the equity plan that's currently going on in the school district. We, as a board, approved bringing in a consultant to help build that equity plan. It is something very important that is ongoing in the school district. It is something that takes in the opinions of everyone in the school district from all corners. Unfortunately, when surveys went out, participation was very low. Parent engagement is such an important thing in projects like this and in everything school related. Parent engagement is just so important, and I want to help improve that and get more parents involved in important conversations like this. I remember right around this time, or maybe the beginning of the school year, there was a presentation, and it was discussed that it was projected that learning loss will hit percentage-wise in the double digits of students not being at learning level, and that was very alarming. I think we won't have a better understanding of how badly impacted we were until the beginning of the next school year. I know IAR testing right now is being pushed back. Access testing is currently ongoing. So that'll be some indicators, but not all, on how bad this pandemic has impacted our students. I also want to talk about moving forward, right? The next school year, curriculum mapping. My son's school was part of the pilot of the curriculum mapping that the school district will be implementing next year, K to 12. It works. It's great. It is something that helps parents understand what their students are learning. One comment that I'm always going to reference is Mr. Cesario, who was an administrator at the school district, said that anyone could walk into the classroom and pick up right where a teacher left. That's huge. That means that every experience that I'm sure a lot of us have had with substitute teachers will no longer be existence, where they can actually come and teach what their teacher was teaching them. So that's a big factor. And I think that's going to be a huge help moving forward for all students and parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Lightning round question. Okay, this is really super fast. I want a thumbs up or thumbs down. High stakes testing this year been cited as a good measurement of students' abilities. Are we in favor in this year of the pandemic? How are we feeling about moving forward with the requirements for high stakes testing by the end of 2021? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
For context, there are some of the best institutions of higher learning in the US are waiving these tests. The SAT, I don't think we do ACT that much anymore. they're waiving those tests. And if MIT is doing it sometimes, I don't know if they're one of the institutions this year doing it. But if they're saying that standardized tests aren't indicative of student achievement in college or university, we shouldn't have high stakes testing right now.
And it looks like all of the members of the panel have all said thumbs down. Okay. We've got, let's see, 17 minutes left. And what I want to give each of you a chance to do is to make your pitch for why you should be elected to the District 60 School Board. So let's start with Dr. Shipley.
Thank you once again for having us this evening. This has been a very informative forum. So once again, thank you for having us. I feel that I would be an asset to the Waukegan School Board because I think I bring a skill set that I know what takes place in the schools. I know what community and families need to be supportive of the educational process. I know how to assess data. I know how to look at budgets and apply them to student achievement. I know how to identify what's going to bring those students across the line. I know what systems need to be in place to support the student who's struggling. I also know how to enhance the academic setting for those who are at our top level of students. I know how important it is to have programming in school, after school, on the weekends. I know how important it is to use money and resources to create environments that are going to support families and students as it relates to academic achievement. I just think that I bring a wealth of knowledge to the position. And I also think that over the years, my students have come to me and they said they feel as though that I've been able to support them in whatever their circumstances are in school. And I just think that it's time for someone to be on the board who has that total view of what transpires in the district and hopefully can continue to move the district forward in positive ways as it relates to student achievement. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ewing, why should you be reelected to the board?
Yeah. Over the last 4 years, I've gotten really the reason that I ran and my campaign slogan 4 years ago was called Running for the Future, right? Is because my son was coming to Waukegan Public Schools. And if I'm being quite honest, I was terrified, right? Would he go through the same things that I went through? When I graduated Waukegan High School, I had a baby and another one on the way, right? And so I know firsthand some of the challenges that exist in our public schools, but I also know how you can overcome those things. And I want to continue to be a voice and continue to be at the table advocating for students and for our community. And so I think that over the last 4 years, the state rep mentioned a couple things as far as what makes a good school board member. We talk about transparency. We talk about that word. My Facebook page is public. My email is accessible. I return phone calls and speak to people and parents and try and be that advocate and that voice. And then being student focused is the thing that got me into work was my student, but it was also my mentorship with my Men of Vision group at Waukegan High School. And once again, being in those hallways and realizing that some of the issues that existed when I was there are still there. And I think we've made progress, but we have a long way to go in Waukegan Public Schools. And so I want to be there as our students return from COVID, and I want to help set the district on the path towards the future in order to ensure that we are providing a world-class education right here in Waukegan, not for some, but for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Arroyo, why do you want to be a member of the school board for District 60?
For me, I speak for the people, for the public here in Waukegan. On another forum, I said, and I will always be this person, I'm for the people. I said, it doesn't matter if you talk to me for 5 minutes or an hour. As soon as I said it, a lot of people had reached out and messaged me and asked me their own issues, what's going on in the school. And a lot of people, and I'm not giving nobody anybody in disrespect that's on the board. But sometimes a lot of people say once you get into the position, you forget the people. And for me, I always will remember the people that helped me out along the way. It doesn't matter if you did help me or you didn't help me. For me, it's always the people that are going to remember you that you helped. You got to help out everybody. It doesn't matter what it is, what the issue is. You always got to listen and put their needs in front of your own needs. And a lot of people, they get to any position, they forget their agenda, what they were trying to do. They're just kind of more like a yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. And that's not what we need. We need people that are for our community, that will listen to our parents and also our staff members, because there's a lot of staff members that are afraid to speak out. And for me, I'm a person, there's a couple of teachers that I went to school that talked to me, and they have told me their issues, what's going on in school, and some of them are afraid to speak out. And for me, I'll be that person to hear them, and I will bring that situation up to the board members that needs to be addressed. And obviously, I will always remain anybody anonymous. There's one teacher that I endear, and for him, it's the reason why I'm doing this. You know, he's a Black male, great teacher, and for me, he inspired me for me to do this and to become a better person, what I am today. We always joked around when I was younger, but that it shaped me. He shaped me to the person, to the man I am right now and trying to become. So for me, I'm pretty much saying I speak for the little guy. That's why I'm running.
Thank you so much. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you for this opportunity. The reason why I am running, because I want the parents, the community, the students to come together and understand that I will continue to be a voice. I will continue to advocate, but most of all, I will come with them. We will come together, and we need to brighten up the school. I will be that person on the board to let parents know that it doesn't make a difference how small the question is, how small the problem is. We as the board can come together as one. And right now, I don't see that, but I know that it's possible. So what I would like to see as a board, as I be a part of it, is to strengthen the board, to build the board, to refreshen the school as well as the community, so that we can have higher expectations for our students. We will be able to give them the resource, the programs, the funding that they need to go back into the classroom after this pandemic, be able to know that they will be able to move forward instead of moving backwards. So as a school board member candidate, I will take every voice to the table, and I will be that person to suggest what the parents are asking for in that time. So as I move forward, out here in the community, I will make sure that we as a board continue to know that the students, the educators, and the community is a team, and we're all one together. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hannah.
Thank you, Siam, Miss Holmes, excuse me, for conducting this forum. Thank you, Representative Mayfield. I am, people should elect me, re-elect me back to the Waukegan School Board, not only because of my experience and my knowledge and my understanding of the role of a board of education, also what it means to have good governance, because governance equates to student academic success. If the governance is shaky, rocky, if I will not be beholden to the administration. I will continue to listen to the students, the staff, the teachers, the taxpayers, the community. And I know that through this pandemic, there was a demonstration of many of the weaknesses that are present within our organization. And I am dedicated, and my commitment, along with my integrity, to stay focused on the education of all children, and working with the other members of the school board, whomever they are, okay, to get our governance in order, to make sure that the organizational chart of our district is being followed based on policy, putting our resources, and I will continue to monitor that. I will continue to hold those accountable for where the resources are going, where they shouldn't go. I will continue to use my voice if I need be, and I will just be the champion of our kids, our parents, everyone, like I have been over the years. And with my experience as also being in the classroom before, as a substitute, as a life skills coach, as a ESL instructor, I work my way up to become a good board member from the ground up. So that's why I think people should elect me on April 6th.
Thank you so much for that statement, Ms. Hannah. Mr. Castellanos.
Thank you again for the invitation. Thank you, Ms. Holmes. I inspire to have a resume like you one day. Thank you to Representative Rita Mayfield for shedding light on the importance of this election and this volunteer work. It's really meaningful work, and it's the start of making Waukegan better, right? It starts with education and educating our youth. I had my son when I was 16, and I didn't know how to help him, thinking when he was in school. I went to DePaul University, and I was in the dean list every quarter. And my mentality was, when I graduate, I'm going to find a way to help him in education. I just don't know where. And I started getting involved in the PTO. And then I started getting involved in a nonprofit called Bravo Waukegan, who help students through music education. And then I started working for a school district. And it was like, this was meant to be, right? Working with kids and education. And every day I woke up and just loved what I was doing, loved the conversations I was having with different individuals. It just felt like I was in the right place. And I then joined the school board April of last year. And let me tell you, right, it's not the normal first year a school board member has, but it's been a learning year. And that is experience that I bring to the school board, along with everything else in my background. I hope that I get to serve for the next 4 years. There's a lot of work to do, and I am very excited to continue to have these conversations with the community, to represent this very diverse school district, and to keep working with the school board members, whoever they are, this upcoming end of the election. So I hope that come April 6th, it turns out that I can serve you. I want to thank everyone else for coming out, and thank you to the panelists. You are all appreciated. This is, again, meaningful work. If no one's told you, I'm sure they have. You are doing a lot of good work for the kids in Waukegan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Gonzalez, take us home.
Okay, I'm gonna try to be fast. 3 things. I feel like board members need to lead by example. I love Waukegan. I'm a product of Waukegan Public Schools. I am a testament to what can happen in our district and what every student has the possibility to become. Not saying I'm all that. I'm not. I have peers in my class doing more amazing things. And I feel like that could be a story that each of us take home at the end of the day. So I feel like what I bring to the table as a 24-year-old, knowing the merits of different tools, coming up with innovative ideas and not afraid to get to the nitty-gritty, makes me a great candidate. Second thing, I feel like being a board member is about reaching consensus, not being afraid to challenge one another, but also talk about things that are important, not only to students, but to different stakeholders in our community. And all of us, I think, as candidates have touched on that. There's a lot of things that could be improved in Waukegan, but community building has to be at the heart of that, right? And the last thing, and what I've sort of been repping as part of my campaign, my slogan, Juntos aprendemos, unidos vencemos. Together we learn, united we achieve. Talking to Ms. Hannah's point about governance and knowing where your power comes from, I think is absolutely right. The power comes from the people. They have to know that they are stakeholders and they can affect change. So when we try to bring solutions to our district, we have to consider what their experiences are and also how they can use their own voice to bring those concerns to the table without us having to say it for them. So I believe that, given my values, given the fact that I know how transformative education can be and my own personal experience, I feel like I hope, I bring something to the table that's unique, if not collaborative, and that people take a risk on me on April 6th.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank you all for an impactful panel this evening. Thank you for the gift of time to share your views and your vision for District 60. Thank you for the chance to moderate this panel. And with that, I'll turn it over to Samai to close out the evening.
Yes, thank you so much to all of these candidates. They are so hardworking and they're so committed to helping their community. And thank you to Representative Mayfield, who has done the same for many years. And we hope to see her continuing as well. And that's a reminder to everyone who's watching that make sure to vote April 6th, or you can even go early vote tomorrow, Friday, and Monday, 9 to 7. And on the weekends, 9 to 4. You can go to the Lake County Courthouse or you can go to the Jane Addams Center. And thank you so much for paying attention. This was a really great discussion. You can see there are really crucial issues that need to be addressed. And we hope to work with whoever is elected and hope that everyone just stays involved in their communities. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening. Enjoy yourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Great job, everyone.
Best of luck, everyone.